Representative Ellen Pogamiller.
I'm Ellen Hefner, representative from House District 87.
Oh, that's why it's called Between Two Ellens.
That's why.
Wait, so time out. I think didn't you just start, right?
But that was natural for him. You want to do it again?
No, we can give it.
I think this is good content.
Okay.
This is what people want.
Well, we're so happy that you're here. Forrest Bennett, the representative from District
You got it.
92. I had to look. I'm happy that you're here. You're not only a great friend, but you're also a great representative, and I'm very happy for your mentorship since I'm new in the House. And I'm happy that you agreed to come and talk with the Ellens about a topic that I don't think a lot of people know about, or something that was passed and changed quite a bit how a way of life for people in Oklahoma, workers especially. So please introduce yourself and give us a little description from you.
Okay. Forrest Bennett.
Yes.
You covered that. District 92. She covered that. And I've been the state representative for the fight in 92nd since 2016. The district covers Midtown, downtown, a part of the South Side, Valley Brook, and the fairgrounds, and a few neighborhoods scattered around that general area. And I have it's been the honor of a lifetime to do that job, and I have just completed my 9th year.
Wow. Well, thank you. Again, thank you for being here.
Hey, you're welcome.
So today, we'd love for you to talk about right to work between
Okay.
two Ellens.
Sure. For Ellen, I'll talk about it. It is the law of the land in Oklahoma and many other states right now. Right to work is legislation that swept the country in the early thousands. In fact, Oklahoma tried to pass right to work in 1964 and it failed.
Wow.
And then they tried again in 2001 and it passed. It was a part of a national trend that, in my opinion, and I am a politician, so I've got those, was designed to weaken unions. And I think that plenty of people who are pro right to work would acknowledge that. Though I think that history will not look fondly upon those folks, I think, in the long run, especially because, as we were talking before this started recording, union membership is on the rise nationally. Unions are polling very well nationally. I would like to see some numbers about how they're looked upon in Oklahoma, and I hope to do that in the next couple of years. But in my view, so let's just establish that I'm gonna opine quite a bit. There's some facts, and then there's a lot of opinions that I have. It's been bad. Mm-hmm. It's been bad for workers. It's been bad for working families, and therefore it's been bad for the state of Oklahoma. Do you have any follow-ups?
I do. Well, I'm just a little bit more about, so thank you for explaining about right to work. Before right to work, and then after the unions have gone down, but what else is the change that has happened? Not just people not signing up for unions, but can you see something else that has changed because of right to work and how we look at those who have trade jobs?
Sure, and it's not just trade jobs. The effect of right to work, which I should explain what the mechanics of it are.
Yeah. But
the effects predominantly hit public service employees and women, because women generally sort of populate those jobs at a greater percentage. Right to work said that no longer could employment be contingent upon joining a union in unionized shops and office places. So there was a time when teachers, when they were hired, were automatically a member of the union that represented their district. There were construction operations that you were immediately union. Federal jobs, across the board. And I think that especially in places like Oklahoma, where people think of union workers as construction workers, plumbers and pipe fitters and electricians and welders, which is certainly true, unions represent folks in every industry, from the deli counter at Homeland to the teacher's assistant at your favorite school, to fast food workers in many cases. There's an effort now to unionize gig workers. And one thing that's been interesting is that in the states where unions have remained strong, they've tried to innovate and learn how to organize as the economy shifts and grows and changes. And in places like Oklahoma, I think that we've fallen behind. We have, I think, the second lowest union density in the United States. And the reason that I think this is really ironic in places like Oklahoma is that so many of our colleagues talk about the dignity of work, especially when they're trying to force it on people in order for them to access benefits that I think the three of us believe are just human rights. But well, I'm gonna keep rambling unless you guide me.
Well, one of the things I would just like weigh in on a little bit as someone, you are a union member.
I am.
As was I before I came on. And one of the key differences, I think, I had worked in non-union jobs before that. And when I came to work at a union job, within those first month, they were like, well, we're going to send a staff member to a board meeting. And I was like, oh, we get to attend board meetings to hear what happens? And that was mind-blowing to me. And then, people kind of talk negatively sometimes about bargaining, but I think when you understand that bargaining is a compromise, and also it's a compromise with union members trying to negotiate what they think is the most beneficial to their members at large. And so a lot of what we talk about is unions is this erosion of benefits that other states are getting because their unionship is stronger than we are.
And maybe we should roll back. I think we have approximately 4 hours to unpack this. So
For you only.
as the U.S. grew, just rolling way back to history, unions were popularized by immigrant workers, the Irish, the Italians.
The Polish, the Czech.
Sure. Push your Polish on me, whatever. No, but it's true because they built this country, and they saw the need to organize so that they could take collective action to access the things that they and their families and the communities around them felt they deserved. Because the reality is, for time immemorial, the people who hold the power and the money have never voluntarily given it away. Mm-hmm. They have never voluntarily provided, not through their benevolence, do people have good pensions and an 8-hour work week. And I mean, Oklahoma, interestingly enough, is this place that included in its constitution, which was at the time, in 1907, the longest constitution of any state in the country, included specific provisions that came from what were called the Shawnee Demands, which were vestiges of the 1905 proposed constitution for the state of Sequoia, which had been which had been dreamed up by the five tribes and by tenant farmers and formerly enslaved black families who were still under the thumb and remain so today. And one of those provisions was 8-hour work weeks and a ban on child labor. These were fundamental tenets of the unions. And we had United Farm Workers. That was a big union in the early 1900s here in the state of Oklahoma. And labor, generally speaking, prior to the National Labor Relations Act, operated outside of it was not operating with the permission of government. And one thing that some sort of labor scholars lament is that we ever kind of got into bed with the government, so to speak. Mm-hmm. That when the National Labor Relations Board was established, it sort of took some of the autonomy away from unions. But the reality is unions will always exist whether or not that is with the permission of government. And in fact, at a certain point, they should exist in spite of what the government wants.
So I always love to talk about, we talk about the high level part of all, people running it and how things are kind of managed up top. But I can tell you coming from a union family, my grandpa, who was a tool and die draftsman. He worked for Seco in Chicago. He retired at 60. He had a pension, and I got to really enjoy him as being a grandpa.
Yeah.
And so I think that those are the things, and lived, and his wife, my grandma didn't have to work very much, supported him and supported the grandkids and her kids. It was that family sort of. And then my dad was in the UAW, and so that having all of this sort of experience about how family was so important and how we provided and supported family, I felt that.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. People who wear, I made this debate on the House floor last year or earlier this year, but the folks who talk about Make America Great Again, which is not my politics, but a lot of them, regardless of whether they're conscious of this or not, are thinking back to a time when one job could sustain a household. And that golden age of American workers existed in large part due to the support of unions. Unions are, to be clear to anyone listening, whatever the worker wants them to be. If this room were to unionize, the issue could be, we do not like that Andy is wearing a shirt that has colors that could be construed as being pro-University of Texas. We don't want that. And that could be the basis. But, if you're there's always sort of a unifying issue around which people unionize, whether that's, folks at a grocery store whose shifts are getting screwed up, or teachers who are not getting paid well enough, or people whose pensions are being threatened. I was the first class of legislators to have a 401k instead of a pension. Had a long conversation with Randy McDaniel, the legislator who had gone on a crusade against pensions during his time. And he was spending 20 minutes trying to explain to me why I was way better off with that. And I stopped him and asked him, well, did you take the pension option or did you take the 401k option, Randy's? Well, the pension. That's
Boom.
it.
But see, and then of course, that too, those protections. And it's the protections that I like, of course, I'm going to bring up the topic I talk about all the time, is disability. And I think right there, you talk about homelands and the people that work there. They're included in a membership, which means so much. When you have to continually always fight and say, I'm still here and I want to be involved. The unions, because you're part of it, you're a member and they'll protect you and fight for you. They'll keep your wage. They'll hopefully get you a wage that will be higher to get a raise. I mean, there are all those great things about employees that we support being part of that union. Tell us something else about the maybe the futures or something that you see that could be changing, and what we could do to help.
Yeah, I think that and what is our time constraint?
We're
We're
got
not.
so much time.
She was just looking at the time.
Well, I have a
You have lots
tendency
of
to be
time.
long-winded. I think the future. My hope is that history, repeats itself in positive ways as well as negative ways, because we're seeing it repeat itself in negative ways, in my opinion. Which again, I was told I could share here. But I think that as the owner class, sort of as the corporate hoarders of wealth class, make their intentions less veiled, they're being so much more straightforward about their desire to hoard as much wealth as possible at the expense of the people that are making their machines work for them and pumping that money into their coffers. Workers are getting pissed. And it's regardless of politics. I mean, Bernie Sanders was in West Virginia, burning the barn down because he was talking about an economic system that isn't working for folks. And Donald, to his credit, I guess, tapped into that, all the while having every intention of making sure that the sort of the corporate megalords that supported him would get support as well. But he tapped into that for folks, that populist idea, and so that, coupled with the fact that no time in history has any successful major social movement succeeded without the help of the labor movement, I think we're going to see a resurgence of that. And in fact, we are seeing a resurgence of that. The idea that we can make that more prevalent in Oklahoma gives me a lot of hope, and I think that we can. I have spent the last year visiting with union locals across the state of Oklahoma, and it's been eye-opening to me both to hear what their concerns are and the things that they'd like to see done, but also to meet sort of the broad spectrum of people and backgrounds that they come from. I am a member of the Communication Workers of America 6086. It's the Oklahoma State Workers Union. You're an OEA member. Or
Well,
OEA.
yeah.
And you know, got OEA and AFT for teachers. And those folks have always been, folks who are multi-generational union folks have always understood it. On the other hand, multi-generational union folks and people who come into unionized shops and office places may not be aware that it was their forebears that fought for those pensions and those good wages and that good contract. And so we have an education to do, and to the degree that Right to Work has forced unions to find a way to sell themselves to people as opposed to just kind of resting on their laurels. I mean, if I'm going to be critical of the union movement, it was that they did once they, before Right to Work swept the nation, that was an issue. It's similar to the way Democrats just kind of got caught flat-footed when the red wave, so to speak, came through Oklahoma and Republicans won up and down the ballot. Democrats were technically still in control when Right to Work happened, but they sort of saw the writing on the wall. And I think this is an important lesson for aspiring politicians. Democrats thought that maybe they could stave off that change by supporting something that many of them knew was not right for workers, but they sort of acquiesced to this swelling, tension there, and it was, David Boren and I think Governor Nye endorsed Right to Work in 2001 when it was passed. So it was a bipartisan, and they love to talk about that. We talk about this at the Capitol now. If they get one or two Democrats, they love to say it was bipartisan. But history will remember that it was a bipartisan effort to kind of clamp down on unions. What's interesting now, especially because those of us who get to know our Republican colleagues know that this shouldn't sit well with them. But so many people in workplaces where they could unionize. I'll use Homeland as an example, or CWA, or AFSCME. I was up talking to the Tulsa AFSCME folks earlier this week. There are folks who work in those places who choose not to unionize because they know that the people who are paying their union dues are going to negotiate on their behalf, and they're going to get the benefit of that. The problem is, and I was talking to AFSCME Oklahoma City about this, their president, Bruce Davis, says, we have the capacity to have 1,300 members. We have 500 members. And the city knows exactly how many members we have. And the strength they perceive from the union during negotiations reflects what that number is. And right now, any, manager owner class can look at a weak union and know going into that negotiation, I don't have to sacrifice much. They're not coming to me from a position of strength. And it is this vicious cycle because the people who aren't union look at the contract that's negotiated and say, man, see, this is why I'm not in the union. You guys didn't do a great job negotiating for me. And the response from them should be, yeah, because we don't have the numbers. Right now, paying your union dues, paying my union dues is a commitment to collective action and direct action. I'll be honest with you, the CWA, the Oklahoma State Workers Union, is kind of in rebuilding mode. We're in a rebuilding year right
Happens.
now. It does. like the legislative Democrats.
Yeah, it happens. Rebuilding.
But just like us, there is a lot of passion there, and it's about crafting an argument that works for folks. And one important part of union organizing is agitating.
Yeah.
And Ellen, sitting near me on the House floor, I know you agitating. Ellen with a Y, for those who are not watching.
I'm in the back.
But and there's a fine line between agitating and aggravating. You don't want to shame people to the degree that they're so turned off by the labor movement. But there is an argument to be made that, man, all these folks who talk about individual responsibility and, the fact that, a job is the best way to get ahead. Those who, think that we shouldn't have a social safety net. Well, the alternative to a social safety net is a good job with good wages, reliable benefits, and a pension or a good
Safety.
savings mechanism, and a way
Safety.
to
Yeah.
a way to set yourself up for success in the future. So, there are a variety of avenues that we can use to sort of start advocating for more folks to join and to find places where we're not organized and get organized. There's obviously a lot of work to do, but Oklahoma has presented us with a plethora of examples to point to say this is why you need to unionize. Because again, the rights that workers have are never voluntarily given up by the owners of companies, by the people who run government, and I think that people are waking up to that reality, and then also there's another sort of to change the direction a little bit, and then I'll stop talking so you guys can ask, re-steer it, but there's a democratic element, and that small d democratic element to unions that is very similar to our caucus. We have a variety of people, left of center, but there's some that are very conservative, there are some that are very, very liberal. Many times we disagree on a lot of things, and what we can get together on are those sort of top line, agenda items that we want. The same is true of unions. I've met union leaders who are good Democrats, and 60% of their membership is Republican. They have differences, that are strong and difficult to navigate, and they still find a way to get together and find that common thread through which they're all going to work that makes the union matter to them. And there's a democratic process to that. You show up to your union meetings, you vote for your leadership, and unlike American electoral politics where you show up every 2 years and you vote, and then your elected representatives do what they do, you unionize, and then the next step is deciding what you're going to demand in your contract, what you're going to demand in negotiations, and what kind of campaigns you want to take on, like the minimum wage question that we're going to be talking about. It is the sort of one of the last vestiges of true democracy that I see in this country, and especially at a time when I consider a lot of our sort of core institutional principles are under attack. The idea of the union as a stopgap against backsliding away from a democratic society is so important. And if it can be a vehicle through which people can see that direct action and participating and showing up matters, then I think we're all for the better for it. And the same people that are union busting are the billionaires that are pumping millions of dollars into elections every 2 years. So to anyone, at the same time as they try to promote this idea that showing up for elections doesn't really matter, they're doing that. It's all by design, because they clearly know the importance of investing your time and resources in elections, because it has helped them keep the status quo that they've enjoyed. I'll stop.
Well, I just, you reminded me something that we didn't really talk about, which is a big community piece. And you show up to elections every 2 years, and you think that that's the process, but you show up at those meetings and meeting and having things together creates a community that really develops us into being more supportive of each other and trying to help. And it gives us the best of us, especially reminding me of when you were talking about being young and Seco doing a Christmas party every year. And it wasn't just a party for adults. They had it at Lincoln Park Zoo one year, and it was in winter, so it was cold. But they opened it up so you could be around other people. One year it was at Old Chicago, which was an indoor amusement park in Chicago. So I could see other people kids that didn't go to school with me, but I would see them every year, and then we got to be friends later on. It made those bonds tighter on working together, and even if I was a grandkid.
Yeah.
But growing up and understanding that kind of piece of a union as a kid is sort of my path in how I do things too, especially with disability, the community, the seat at the table, that kind of stuff, to really get your voice. So I appreciate that. I mean, just talking about it get me all warm and fuzzy.
The hardest, I think, hurdle when you're talking to potential members, as we call them, is that you will have a conversation with them and you are clearly aligned in the sense of the things they want, the kind of hurdles that they see, the way they want to work together. But for some reason, union in their mind is something that's off limits. They would never do that. And I like struggled with that all the time in those conversations, because I'm like, you are with me.
Right.
The change you want to see is with us.
Right.
And there was, you're talking about a cup of coffee a week is how much it costs to join a union.
Right.
People talk about it. It's like very expensive. It's not. But the power is in the number of people. And
Yeah.
if people won't take that leap to get there, it does diminish our power, because numbers matter.
And it is a self fulfilling thing there, because when you have fewer numbers, your outcomes aren't as good.
Right.
And then that gives potential union members fewer reasons to join. But it is so clear if you have 5 minutes with somebody to explain that to them,
Yeah.
and then it's up to them to figure out the rest. It's the same as, like, I remember those videos of people being interviewed on the street about Obamacare, and they were asked about specific provisions and protections that were provided in that, and those people would say, "Oh yeah, no, we need to do that." And then the interviewer would say, "So how do you feel about Obamacare?" And they're, "Oh no." No.
Yeah.
and I think that's an important lesson, because the folks that don't want us to have access to these important protections and things that you and I would consider to be basic rights for workers, they've worked very hard and very successfully to muddy the waters in that way, and it is a sad reality. And to what we have to do, it's being more proactive in fighting that. I think that, in the 9 years I've been at the legislature, I've worked well with the unions, but it's largely been to play defense. Mm-hmm. And it's time for us to get a little bit on the offensive side.
So we did talk with Andy Moore about state question ballot initiatives and how those work. But one of the big ones coming up is minimum wage. And I think what's cool is not maybe all unions, but I know a lot of unions that I've talked to are very supportive of increasing the minimum wage, because they get that we have to have a higher standard of living for all Oklahomans, whether you're in the union or not. What are your feelings on how you think this state question is going to go?
I think it's vitally important, and I'm looking forward to the conversation, to the degree that I look forward to being a part of educating the public on the need for this. It pains me to know that a lot of the companies that buy so much social capital by donating what amounts to pennies on the dollar for their corporate coffers, buy a lot of social capital, by supporting different nonprofits and charities and donating here and there, and they're going to then use the social capital that they've built up over the years to come out and say, "Hey, come on, we don't need this minimum wage. Don't let the government tell us." Well, they're going to be successful in that in some corners of the state, because people haven't woken up to the reality that what they're doing. I think about, and this is in my district, and I'm not trying to be too, I don't know. I don't want to lambast them too much, because they do provide good jobs. But Devon Ice Rink, for example, I think about that every Christmas. Their logo's down there. Mm-hmm. You're seeing their logo side by side with families having a good time. Well, that and the average person looks like, wow, they've sponsored this whole thing. That must be so expensive. But for them, it really isn't that much. They build it into their budget. They recognize what they're getting from that, which is positive feelings from
Mm-hmm.
the public. That then when they come and say, we don't need that. I mean, and Devon's not going to be affected by the minimum wage ballot measure, but they will still, I bet you, participate in the campaign. And there are folks within the union movement who, and it's a very small number, but I have encountered this, who say, well, that'll be bad for unions. because they have a very myopic view of what the union is there to represent. It is such a misnomer that the union only exists to make sure that employees get paid well and can't get fired, because neither of those things are true. You can still be fired for being a bad worker. Your employer just has to do the damn paperwork.
Preach.
And it's not just about higher pay, because one of the things that employers use is, after months or years of saying we just can't afford to give you all raises, when the union threat looms, all of a sudden they're able to cough up a few dollars. And workers who were otherwise open to the idea of unionizing because they just couldn't get their employer to move on that, all of a sudden go, well, I guess I don't really need the union. But the reality is, again, the union is whatever the workers who organize it want it to be. You know, the United Food and Commercial Workers. I keep using this grocery store example because I think it's a good example of there are a lot of different, you know, you've got the public facing, the cashier, you've got the docks, you know, you've got the inventory folks, you've got the deli, you've got the pharmacy, all sorts of people work there, managers. It's white collar and blue collar, you know. When the UFCW, for example, at the international level, you know, is everything that is a union, you know, they're always on the front line, or OPEIU or SEIU, all these unions are always on the front line of talking about whatever union issues. And I think that when locals are contemplating organizing, they look to that and go, well, what would it mean for us to be affiliated with this union? It doesn't, it's like running as a Democrat anywhere.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily reflect everything that's happening at the federal level. We're Democrats in Oklahoma because of uniquely Oklahoma things that we've experienced. And I think that that's what I really want to drive home to folks, is that right to work really means right to work the way that your employer deems right. Right to work without having your opinion seriously considered by the people that pay you. Unionizing gives you a collective voice, because any one of us can go to the Speaker of the House and demand that our bill be heard, or whatever it is. But if we had the right number, if we collectively stood up together and said, we're not moving forward until you negotiate with us, and we got to experience that during the teacher walkout when we did have the numbers, that shows you, you know, that strength in numbers really does make a difference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we'll have more information about right to work and unions, maybe a little more history on our website. And you brought up something about rebuilding, and it looks like and sounds like that rebuilding will be one by one. We have to really interact and build relationships each to not have that barrier of that word union stops people from seeking further. So I think the one-on-one is going to be definitely something that'll be important for both the rebuildings.
I agree.
I agree.
Look
Thank
at us
you.
agreeing with each other.
I know. And to say that I did not aggregate you, I was agitative.
You agitated. You may have aggravated every once in a while, but that was because I was just having a bad day.
I'm happy that you took the blame on that.
And I want to just shout out to anybody who can't see that I'm wearing my Building Trades shirt. The Building Trades is sort of a mini union organization of its own that includes plumbers and pipe fitters, electrical workers, roofers, everybody who builds our buildings, the places that we live. Right to work hit the construction industry, education, and public administration the hardest. And in my view, these are the most important things that we have. I mean, obviously, like, when you are sick, you need to go to the doctor. But every day, people walk into buildings and expect it to be safe. Every day, you know, people exist in communities that are governed by public administrators. We are all educated in some kind of way, and these things are really important. And the building trades, for example, get together once a week. That's where I'm going next, to talk about what projects are coming down the line, how they can position themselves well to earn some of those contracts. And the benefit of that is that 10 times out of 10, unionized workers are better qualified, they are better trained, they are better certified, they take their safety much more seriously. And a lot of the things that they build into their contracts, like mandatory breaks and things that sort of the anti-union folks poo-poo all the time, those are legitimate safety things that mean that you are building something safer, you're building it in a way that will help it to last longer. And I think that that's a microcosmic example of the importance of unions, generally speaking. It's that we have an economy. And that is an achievement. America has one of the biggest economic engines in the world, but it matters less that we have it than it does that everyone who's participating in it is getting an equitable share of what's going on.
Yes.
So
Preach.
that's all I have to say
Yes.
about that.
Snaps on
Actually,
that.
there's plenty more I would have to say about that, and I hope to be invited back.
Part two then. We'll get whatever else you wanted to say next. But Forrest, thank you so much for being here. I thoroughly have enjoyed it, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
It's always great to see you and hear you talk. I like when you opine. Last thing, though, we ask all of our guests to ask the Ellens a question. Forrest, what is your question?
I think it would be a two-parter because I'm famous on the floor for being allowed to ask one question and building multiple questions. And I was going to ask what's the best spelling of Ellen at Little Irony, but I don't want to get you guys fighting.
No, don't go there.
I think part one of the question is when do you believe that spooky season really starts officially, and what is sort of the best spooky season movie that you would recommend? My wife is Halloween is her favorite holiday, and for the record, she believes, and we've negotiated this because this is, we're a union household. Spooky season to her begins right after my birthday, which is August 13th. And
Whoa.
so, yeah. Hey, she's doing this to counteract the fact that the Hobby Lobby forgets Halloween entirely and is already doing Christmas stuff. So she's just fighting her own little battle. But we watch a movie every week and more if we can. So when do you believe spooky season starts? Is it weather related? Is it a calendar thing? And then do you have a movie or a show that is a traditional watch for you?
Okay, so I would say you can't have it, well, in my opinion, you can't have it weather related because it can go forever hot in this dang state. So we just purchased a 12-foot skeleton, so spooky season starts this weekend. We're really excited about it.
Are you going to name the skeleton?
I don't know yet,
Okay.
But it's...
Gotta vibe it out.
It is a lot. When it got delivered, I can't even describe how big a 12-foot skeleton box is.
Yeah, my older brother's, I think, about 12 feet tall. So
Yeah. So, and then, oh my gosh, I'm like the worst at movies because my parents grew up us not letting us really watch movies and TV, so I'm terrible. So the Pogue Miller family is currently rewatching Stranger Things
that
because
counts.
it's spooky season and the final season is coming out.
Yeah, no, absolutely counts.
Okay.
Well, so Halloween movies are all around in my house. My son, William, just loves movies, period. So I can't even think of which one. If it was a scary one, I mean, Friday the 13th, I mean, you can't
Classic.
go wrong. But Nightmare Before Christmas is William's favorite. I just have all those songs. So he calls that a Halloween movie.
Yeah, we agree. We consider that a transitional film. We, between Halloween and the lesser holidays, as Meg calls them, Thanksgiving, Christmas, we watch Nightmare Before Christmas because it's sort of it's a ramp down into the Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hallmark style films.
So the other question is decorating. I mean, I don't do whatever you want. Your house is your house. I mean, it's cool. Do it. What I don't like is when pumpkin spice candles start coming out early and that's all you have. Any store you walk in, and when that I smelt it in August.
Yeah, see, when it's hot outside and you walk in.
And then anything that's pumpkin related, like they have pumpkin toilet paper, pumpkin spice. I mean, all that stuff I can't do.
Stop and rewind a little bit. Pumpkin toilet paper.
Charmin came out
Shaped.
with a scent that when you pull out the toilet paper.
I think no.
So decorating, go for it. The bigger the better. I just was at Lowe's in my district. Huge, great display there, but pumpkin spice. Come on, let's wait till we hit, October or it gets colder out.
Yeah, I think that this year was so bad that I think Starbucks made an announcement about their pumpkin spice latte in the middle of the summer, just to kind of get people, hey, there's something to look forward to. Just hang on until the fall and you'll get a pumpkin spice latte. That's the state of things here.
The smell of Oklahoma should be better than pumpkin spice during this time.
This is probably honestly the most controversial portion of this. I know that there are people out there that are anti-union and pro-union, but
Pumpkin
boy,
spice?
Get into a conversation about
Yeah.
pumpkin spice, and that's some serious stuff.
Yes.
And then it's like, well, the pumpkin spice actually isn't really pumpkin flavor. It's just a bunch of flavors that like try to make themselves.
the smell.
I would just ask that some people take this year and take the amount of time that they would usually spend arguing with
love
their
this.
friends about pumpkin spice.
Oh my gosh, I love what you're
Redirect that to support workers. Just this year, see how you like it.
Yeah.
I
And then
love it.
and then if it went well, if you felt a little bit more righteous after that, try it again next year. Okay.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
The question was great.
What a delight.
Part 2 as well. And thank you so much for being here between two Ellens.
I enjoyed it so much. Thank you. guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.